Killing you.
Cool. I'm Alex Steed. I live out in Cornish, Maine. I blog part-time for the Bangor Daily News. And then the other part of the time I oversee a small production company that makes videos and photography and other content for people online.
What do you blog about over at the Bangor Daily News?
Well, so I started about a year. I've blogged for quite a while in various capacities, but largely I blogged a lot about technological, blah, blah, blah things for about 6 or 7 years. And I've been politically involved in one way or another for many years, and these two paths, for whatever reason, hadn't crossed in a substantial way. So I started blogging for the press, the Portland Press Herald, about a year ago, where I was pitted in a way against one of those sort of like you're on the left and then this other person's on the right, and have conversations about that. But it didn't work for a couple of different reasons. One of the reasons was the left right was so binary. It was really, you're Republican and you should be answering like a Democrat, and please act accordingly. So whenever I'd explore an issue and spend a lot of time and spend hours and hours on a blog entry and cite sources and do that sort of thing, and then the counter argument would just be sort of like, this like jingoistic talking points memo. I got a little frustrated, and I ended up going to the I enjoyed the opportunity that I had at the paper, but I ended up going instead to the Bangor Daily News, where I was allowed to have a larger scope focus on politics.
Mm-hmm.
So I spend half my time, because they need someone focusing on popular culture in Portland, half of my time focusing on popular culture in Portland, and then the other half of the time just being sort of a rabid lefty.
Cool. So you ran for office a while back.
Yes, I did.
I guess, could you explain why did you run for office?
Well, it's a great question that I don't think I've ever confronted or thought about.
You probably should have thought about that before you ran.
It was one of those things where, I mean, I've thought about it. I thought about it then, but I think thinking about it in retrospect, things take new meanings as you see them from different parts in your life. And I guess I haven't retrospectively thought about it for a while. The reason why I ran at that time was I noticed that in the legislature, sort of backing up, I was a steering committee member of the League of Young Voters for quite a while. And taking a look at the legislature, I just sort of noticed that the median age has to be about 60, maybe. And for various mechanical reasons, if you're talking about a non-professional legislature and zero compensation, you're either talking about people with some degree of affluence or in retirement who are able to take on those positions more readily than people who look like you or I, not people with beards, but people who are young. So I ran for those purposes, just because I wanted young people to get heard. But I'd also sort of recently moved back to the town that I grew up in Cornish, Maine, and I was frustrated to that point. I think maybe I was not ever a Ron Paul supporter, but I was fascinated with what Ron Paul did in 2008 with regard to deconstructing this binary sort of left-right idea, right? And whether he intended to or not, his following certainly did. And I was fascinated by that. And when I looked around and heard a lot of the people who I grew up with saying things that they thought made them conservative, I was like, but the Republican Party is not providing for that at all. And then I was frustrated with because I've worked for the Democratic Party in the past, I was frustrated with various pieces of the Democratic Party process. And so I thought, well, okay, if I want to be a young person who's going to run, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do that as an unaffiliated candidate. And I'm going to go out and try to talk to as many real people as possible. And I guess that's in the end why I did it.
I guess, could you talk just a little bit about your experience with that? how did it feel being a candidate? Or I guess how serious was your run? I mean, did you run for the sake of running, or did you run to win?
I ran for both. I mean, I thought that Cor- Cornish is an area that's how do I describe this? Cornish is an area that's conservative. The district is an area that's conservative, or identifies with sort of new American conservatism. The but you, I feel like there's more of a chance for someone who just sort of goes out there and makes a splash than if you're the wrong type of liberal in Portland. Do you know what I mean? Like like there are this is a pretty there's a pretty rich opportunity out here to run just as what you are and talk to enough people and just hope that it works. And
Uh-huh.
so that's very much what I did. I think at first it was a little more like performance arty and trying to make a statement, and then it was like I don't know if this relates with what with your run or what you were trying to pull off with your run, but I got to some point in it where I was like, oh wait, I could actually probably win. And so it transitioned from the point where I was like, well, I'm going to do this and sort of get these issues out there to, oh, I'm going to actually run because this is a pretty cool process.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's definitely how my run went as well. I mean, I was up against the now president of the Senate, Justin Alfond. I mean, I was the only opposition, but yeah, no, it was definitely it went from being like, well, I'll do this and just get some people involved in the process, and give people like do some like real community building, give people skills, and then you get to a certain point and you're just like, oh, well, based on feedback, this could be like a thing.
Right. And I think the advantage you have about with being a not a non-party candidate, but not a Republican or not a Democrat, is it's in your best interest to talk to everybody. And there are people in a district like this, in this district, there are people who haven't been talked to by one party or another for, it could be up to a decade, it could be more, because the mathematical system that they put together to identify who are the, to get the 50% plus one, they just get alienated. They never get talked to. And so it's a really, so when you run into people like that who are like, oh my god, I didn't even know that people talked to voters. That was a fascinating thing.
Yeah, no, and that's definitely something that I found. I think that's why so many people feel totally alienated from the process, is because of that whole. And a lot of people watching aren't going to know what the 50+1 voter universe formula is. Maybe I'll talk about that later. But yeah, no, I think that's been really really polarizing, and leaving a lot of people. We have the 20% that always votes Democrat and the 20% that always votes Republican, and then the 60% who either go either way or just don't vote. So yeah, being not with either party, there's a real opportunity for real difference making. I
Yeah,
wanted
and
to.
I think
Oh, go ahead.
I just a quick ad. I just think in that way, like with with all of the tools that are available to potential candidates these days, and both tools like digitally and tools by way of just social resources with other people who are doing similar things. I mean, I think the parties should be rightfully terrified, because like I said, and like you experienced and like I've experienced, when you show up to the door of someone who hasn't been talked to by one party or another because they don't fit into a system that boils them down to a profit, of a vote profit,
Right,
and
right.
not a serious questioning of what they'd like to see done in their particular area. The third party for a long time meant, spoiler, or whatever people have reduced it to, but now it actually means that someone's going to come to your house and maybe actually hear what you have to say. So
When did you first get involved with politics? And was there any event that sort of politicized you?
sure. I guess my background is that my father was about a generation older than fathers of people our age. When he passed away about 4 years ago, he died at the age of 78, so he was substantially older than other parents, and he was in the Korean conflict and was at that time just sort of like, yeah, America. And then after going through that, and then after seeing the Vietnam War happen, he became extremely disillusioned with our international policy. And the sum total of his beliefs, even though he never would have necessarily connected the dots on this, was socialist, and it would have made him a socialist, right? And although he took a very sort of, again, American conservative view on gun rights, and was very involved in the NRA, and so that's where I saw that play out. Am I okay? Cool. There was some blinking. That's where I saw his engagement play out. So that was my upbringing, sort of around someone who was involved. I when I was a smart student, but I wasn't very involved at school in the academic end of things. So I would typically not pass papers in on time and get crappy grades. And in civics, which a class I really enjoyed in the ninth grade, I was at that point, and in order to get extra credit, the teacher suggested I go to a town meeting. And so I went to a town meeting here in Cornish, and I was also involved in this media production program called TV2. And it was the first closed cable access channel that we had in our area, and it was funded completely by money that came from the cable channel, which was given to the town, and then the town gave that money to the school. I went to this town meeting, and one of the town officers, or town councilman, was sort of notoriously shitty. But you know, everyone like knew it, but people were like, it's like a town of 1,200. Like, you don't really want to screw around, and like, he works at the store. You got to see him every day. So he was like that, but basically this question about TV2 got up in front of the town meeting, and they said, do we give this money to the school this year? What are they really doing with it? Or do we just keep it and put it towards other issues? So the town, and the guy, that was like literally how it was presented. And the guy pitched it, and everyone voted, and they voted to keep all the money in the town, to take the money away from the TV2. And so I talked to a woman who had to be like 1,000 years old next to me. I was like, can you explain to me what just happened? And she said, well, they voted. And I just stood up and said, hey, that's in violating every rule of order. I was like, hey, that's our money. Like, that's the only program I know about and enjoy at school and actually pay attention to, and that's probably how I'm going to learn what I'm going to do, and I just made a sort of passionate case. And so they chose to do this. They chose to revote, and they revoted and put the money back at the school. So I realized just early on that, is it Woody Allen who says that whatever 80% of winning is just showing up, or something like that, whatever the cliche is. I realized that pretty early, and have since been trying to employ that philosophy. Killing you.
You're watching The Punk Patriot, to life, liberty, in pursuit of a less fucked up government. If you like this video, please donate what you think it was worth. You can find the link down in the description of the video. Also, let me know what you think in the comments section. Please share this video with your friends and your enemies. The only way that this channel will expand is through word of mouth and people like you. So thank you very much. Peace.